Hi everyone. I wanted to do a slightly different video today. This is going to be a personal journey about me, this video, and I've been in two minds for quite a while now whether to do a video like this because I don't know whether people are interested. I don't know if it's gonna do anything. But I got a message, which I was quite aware of, but I did get a message the other night during my sleep. I get, messages coming through, and it just highlighted, this journey that I've been on all my life, but especially awakening to this more since my awakening journey, and that is vulnerability. I have really, and it's making me cry now, I've really struggled with vulnerability in my life. For anyone who relates to this, who growing up, you were also that person that had to protect yourself, right? You had to fight your way. You had to survive. You just had to survive all your experiences, all your traumas. And the way you did that was by different ways, of course. And my way was fight. My way was fight. And in that fight, which is just me protecting myself from being vulnerable, from being hurt again, from feeling hurt again, and all the stuff that's happened in my life. And of course, this is also repeated from past lives as well, as as it happens. Most of my life, I've just had to fight. Most of my life, basically, had to protect myself, and because I've just been in this survival, right, most of my life, because there was this trauma that had to be released, and I needed to go through a healing journey. And the awakening journey that I've been on for the past, many years, has helped me heal. And this is what the awakening does. It's part of what the awakening does. It's help you realign to you, right? So when I got this message, which was basically what I was shown was how far I have gone with my life when it comes to vulnerability and being vulnerable, and yet how much more I still have to do. And so I'm trying to do the brave thing. I have to do the brave thing. It's in my codes to always do the brave thing and to face things every time, as much as, I'm aware of, what's happening, of course. But I'm not someone that hides away from things. I always do my best to face myself, to do what I need to do to transform for myself, because I know it's very important. So here I am trying to do the brave thing and being vulnerable and sharing this with you. The story that I want to share with you is a very, very vulnerable story for me. And it's the journey, the experience that I've had, that I've been, I guess, not very open about with people, because again of this protective mode that I've been, right, of if you can't have compassion for yourself. And there is this thing where we say there's a victim mentality, and that can get repeated, yes, if we get stuck in it. But at the same time, I really, really feel that we need to be where we are, as in, if we feel that we need to express these stories for ourselves, just for ourselves. At the end of the day, everything is for us anyway, for our self-development in this life. If we need to do it, then we must do it. And forget the labels of victim mentality or anything like that, because we have all been disconnected from self-compassion. And if we do not find self-compassion for ourselves, there is no journey. We can't do this. Self-compassion is healing. So I was afraid that I didn't want to be seen as being in this victim mentality. But what I realized was it's actually really needed to share this for complete self-compassion, for what I've had to learn for myself. So forget the labels. It's about learning to have self-compassion, right, for ourselves. And so you have to go into where you need to go to, whether that is feeling hurt, angry, all the emotions, everything you can imagine. It's really, really important. Saying that, what I felt like I have to do here was to learn more about this vulnerability and being more vulnerable with myself, to allow myself to open up more, to allow myself to transform in this journey. Like I said, I'm very determined when it comes to self-development, and I don't give up. So this is me doing what I need to do for me and hoping that you also will get something out of it, right? So where I want to start in this vulnerability that I'm sharing with you, is talk about my awakening journey. This is, like I said, a very vulnerable subject for me, partly because of what I've gone through and what I've had to learn and the craziness that came with it, but also because there are people in this story that I'm very mindful of, and I'm going to do my best not to mention any people specifically, and I'm going to try and use the word soul as much as I can. I do not ever, in any of my videos, ever want to bring anyone else in, whether it's a celebrity or anyone else, like anyone. This is just me. I feel like there's a moving forward in this ascension, and we're moving forward into a lighter path, right? And if we bring other people's energy in, whatever that is, I just feel like it's going back to the old way, and we are moving forward, and we need to be thinking lighter and in a more loving and compassionate way, right? That's kind of how I see it. So I'm going to do my best to keep to that, right? So there's several reasons as to why I haven't talked about this before. So I'm going to do my best and try and keep it as peaceful and calm, but also honest at the same time. Now, what I'm about to share is my perspective. Everyone has their own reality, right? Everyone has got their own perception, their own perspective to things. So anyone else in this story that I'm going to share is going to probably see it in a different way, of course, because that's their experience, and that is absolutely fair enough, of course. So I'm just sharing my perspective here, and that's all I can do. Okay, so here we go. My awakening journey happened 4 or 5 years ago. And now before then, it was little bits coming in and out of my life of some awakening stuff, messages, certain messages through my sleep, certain things happening. It was like in and out in little bits, changes, transformations that I was going through, right? But this was a full-on awakening, and it was for 2 years extremely, extremely intense. I mean, I can't put it in any other words but that. And before I start, please be mindful what I'm about to share. If anyone's, finds it difficult to hear about suicide or anything like that, or speaking about suicide, I am going to be sharing some things about that. So just be mindful. If you don't want to hear about anything like that, then don't listen to the rest of the message. Okay, don't watch the rest, please. But what I meant when I said intense was precisely that. It was so intense that basically every day of my life I would wake up not wanting to be here. And I don't mean as in, sometimes we just, oh gosh, I can't do this thing anymore, it's just ridiculous, and we just make fun of it, and you just feel it. It's very, very serious. Every single day, almost every day, I'd wake up just really not wanting to be here, and to the point sometimes where I would have plans. Sometimes it would be like instant thing where, you know, I remember one time I was in the bath, and because of all the feelings, everything that I've never in my life experienced before, and I'll tell you what happened. I was so close to getting something out to kind of get it all done, right? So I don't have to be here anymore. So for about 2 years, I was battling this, and it was really, really difficult. And I think only certain people know this in my life, and it's even difficult for me to say, but as a human, I never really felt like this was my place, to be honest with you. And I feel like one of the things that happened in this awakening was it really helped me see that in me, that, you know, how I belong somewhere else, and this isn't my home, but of course we're here to do our work and we must do it, right? So for 2 years straight, that's one of the things that I was battling with, and in a very severe way, and really battling as in really doing my best to avoid any of that, but things would just come all the time. Then what happened with this awakening journey, how it all kind of started, again, without mentioning anyone, is using the word soul. I, let's just say, started to go on this journey with another soul, this other soul that was a complete stranger to me. The only way I can say it, woke me up, right? So there's a particular journey that two souls, if you have chosen this before you've come here, both of you, both souls choose, it's a mutual agreement between you two, that you come here on earth, especially at this time, to awake each other. So to activate each other's hearts. And we both, me and this other soul, decided that before we came here. And at this time, a few years ago, this is what happened. So this is how my awakening journey happened. So I met someone I've never met before in my life, a complete stranger. And within the first couple of times, it was, everything started. All the awakening stuff started. And it was because both of us decided to activate each other's hearts, right? Now, I've said this before, consciousness happens through the heart. So I know this because I've been on this journey. And in this awakening journey, so what happened was, through this experience was, at the time, there was nothing on the internet as to what was going on with me. I did so much trying to research everything that was going on with me, and I couldn't find anything. And I could see any therapist, any counselor, and every single person would be like, I have no idea, because the experience that I had was so unearthly that you just couldn't really find much out there on it. The closest thing would be some kind of Kundalini awakening, but even I'm being told it's not that. I don't feel like it was that. Kundalini awakening is, certain energy points, in your body gets activated, but this was everything in a whole space of a year. The first year was really intense in this, and the second year was another intense of something else. But basically, all my energy points just got activated through my heart. My heart started to beat very differently. I could feel it was just beating really differently, and that kind of scared me at the time. And I realized what was going on. It's just all part of the ascension. Of course, afterwards I realized it, but I didn't know at the time. My third eye, the crown, all these upper chakras opened up. I started to see things. I remember my galactic family at one point coming in, and there was a spaceship that I saw, and they were like, come with us. And at the time I thought I must be going crazy, right? This can't be a thing. And I just want to say, before I carry on, before this awakening stuff happened, I've always been a very level-headed person, and I still am. Very stable, very level-headed, very logical, but not too logical, but logical. I feel quite sane and pretty calm and pretty being able to hold things kind of thing, I'm not particularly unstable or anything, but so I wasn't even particularly convinced of the energy centers, all this stuff we hear about the chakras and everything, or however, there's so many other ones as well. Not convinced at all. I had no idea if it was an actual thing. People would talk about it. I have no idea. So when I experienced this stuff within my body, it was odd because I didn't think it could actually happen, but it was actually happening within me. And then apart from, the upper chakras, my heart, and in this experience as well, my soul was like, from this time of, meeting this soul, I just started to see everyone else's soul. So this is part of the awakening. I started to see everyone else's soul. When I was in therapy sessions, I'd be, talking to my clients, and I'd be literally seeing their soul, and I couldn't even put it into words what that was like. So this is the start of it. And then the other things that started to wake up was and this is the part that I found really difficult, was actually my lower chakra, lower energy centers, where it was like I just became highly sexual in terms of the energies, everything going on down there. And it was so awful. You could laugh at it, but actually it was awful. I couldn't sleep because of it for several months. And there were times when it was so extreme that I couldn't go out. I felt like I just couldn't go out, because if I went out, I was afraid that I was gonna flirt with someone because of how I was feeling, and where that would have led to, I didn't want to know, so I was trying to protect myself and everyone else at the same time. It was an interesting experience, but and then everything else. So one of the things that also happened in this awakening, I haven't wrote this down, but there was so much. I feel like what I'm going to share in this video is probably only half of what actually happened, because I can't remember all of it at once. But I did write it all down at the time, but it was a while ago. But one of the things that did happen was so this awakening, you start to see the future. So certain, you just become psychic, basically, right? So one of the things I started to see was in this, now I don't know whether this was the future, but it was like maybe another timeline or something I saw between me and this other person, and how, this other soul, we got married, all this stuff. And I started to see other parts of my future as well. Very, very psychic abilities that came up in this. But throughout the whole experience, it just felt like, this is the first year, the really intense first year. My whole body was going through the most extreme amount of energy, back and forth all throughout. And the whole time it felt like I was actually dying, like my body was doing something that I couldn't handle, and that I must be dying, because this must be death, because this is just not Earth anymore. And the way I would describe it, actually, the whole experience was very, very unearthly. So the other part that was unearthly was how all these synchronicities were coming in. So I can't even tell you how extreme that was. Never in my life before had I experienced that, and never after as such had I experienced that. So everything that happened was a complete push, as it was meant to be, for me and this other soul to experience certain things, from our own perspective in our own lives, but to experience things that we need to do for ourselves in order for everything to be released and brought up, so we can basically heal ourselves. That's basically the whole process of this. Now, a way of in the matrix system, they call this journey the twin flame journey. I don't like that, and I feel like my guides are telling me something. They don't like it, because I don't feel like it. If you go on the internet and you research twin flames, so much crap comes up, and so much untruth comes up, and you can easily get caught up in that and get stuck in what's not true. And if you get stuck in that, then you basically don't transform, and you don't learn, and you don't grow, and it's difficult to move forward. Now, like I said, I'm someone who really, I feel so strong about my growth. So it was difficult for me at the time because, and anyone who's been on this, you would know that it literally, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, literally tears you apart like nothing else you can ever compare it. There's nothing I can compare it to. So before this, I had depression in my life many times. I'd had anxiety many times in my life many times. I had postnatal depression, prenatal depression. Many times I didn't want to be here in my life. Nothing came anywhere close to this. Like I said, this was completely unearthly. So let me go back to these kind of magic moments where the universe pulled me, and I mean physically pulled me to go to certain places that I didn't want to go to. But my body was pulled without my control, that I just had to go. And there were times when in this experience, I was pulled because the other parts, or I should have explained, my throat chakra was activated as well, of course, because every part of you gets activated when it comes from your heart, because it's all connected to your heart. So in this throat chakra, I started to sing the first time. I was singing something in tune, even just, a tiny bit, which I wasn't doing before. But also because of that, I was pulled through my throat to say things that I didn't want to say. So there were moments where I knew it was like, I remember one time in a car, I was driving in the car, and it felt like this push of just doing this thing at that time. And so I said something to someone, knowing that maybe it wasn't the nicest thing, but it was like something that was out of my control that just came out. It really, I don't know how else to explain it. It was completely out of my control. That's what it felt like. So, but again, I'm being told this journey is all about seeing ourselves, and that's what happened to me. So there were all these moments like really highlighted, really magnetized, and really like highlighted is not even a strong enough word. Like it's like something in the most smallest scale becoming even bigger and bigger. Like in a normal standard life, it's just a certain amount, like it's small enough, right? But in this particular journey, everything is so massive, and it's in front of you, and you're in it all the time that you can't escape it. And that, I'm being told, was completely done on purpose, so I can see myself. This is the whole purpose of this journey. So I can see who I am in all these different parts of me, so I can heal, right? And align to myself. So it's the most amazing journey, but it's also the most excruciating, painful. I mean, painful is the word. So painful. I didn't know what pain was like until I went through it. That was the first year, and somehow I got through it. I survived, and I feel one of the main reasons why I survived that year was because of my friends. Thank God for my friends, because I have the most beautiful, supportive friends, and even though they probably had no idea what I was talking about, but they were there every single time. And I don't believe that if my friends weren't there, I would be able to make it. So I really feel like it's them that got me through, and this is why I'm still here today. That's the first year. Now, I could go in a bit more detail, but I'm just going to leave it there. The second year, second intense year, and I think the way they put it was like awakening number 2. That was awakening part 1. This is awakening part 2. Awakening part 2 was in this whole journey with this other soul, where I believe that, in my egoic mind, because remember, I'm here to, just like everyone, delete some stuff. And one of the things that I'm here to delete is attachment. So my attachment issues, I mean, you could say disorders, but, I don't like to go into labels or anything, but, attachment issues that I had to be brought up through this process. And one of them being the fact that, this obsession, this need to be with someone, because unless I'm with someone, or unless that person acts like some kind of mirror to me, as in that person tells me of my worth, then I don't have a worth. So this has been my pattern that I've been deleting. So so in this process, I had to see all this stuff, right? So in this process, what happens is that you then have to get caught up in this attachment. You have to, in order to see it. And that's what happened to me. So I got caught up in the attachment part. And because of that, remember, I was in an extremely traumatic state at this point, right? So this trauma, all going through this trauma, the way I was shown it was, all my life up to that point, there was trauma in like a container, like it was contained, but it was there, right? At this point, from the awakening, what happened, it opened all my traumas up, everything up, for me to see it, for me to heal it, right? So this was the point where the traumas just burst open and I was left with the most traumatic experience of my life. So in this attachment that, like I said, I was in for this particular soul, because it showed me this stuff that I had to work through, right? I was in Australia at the time, left Australia, and I had to leave Australia for my own healing. I felt the pull and I had to do it for my own healing. I just knew being there was not going to help me heal. And I did the right thing. I later realized that I definitely did the right thing, because this was me stepping into my highest timeline. So it was perfect. But at the time, it was sorrowful. And there's a big part of me that really probably wanted to stay. And if something had happened between me and this other soul, I might have. There's a possibility, right? I'm just glad that it happened the way it happened, because this then meant that I was able to heal. So moved from Australia, still in this attachment, not realizing, at the time you don't realize, because you're in such a traumatic state, it's like the little girl, right? There's a little girl, there's a little child in us. And at this point, I had this little girl, I had the 5-year-old, I had the 18-year-old, the 14-year-old, the teenage years that hadn't grown up. So in these teenage years, I don't know whether ever anyone's experienced, as a teenager, you fall for someone, right? It's the similar thing. It feels so obsessive and deep. And that's where the fantasies went. This was the attachment that I was working on. So when I left Australia, there's a moment that came up that I found something out about this other soul, and how this other soul had moved on with their life with someone else. And because I was in that attachment, it was like the biggest trauma just went right in me. Like everything you can imagine just came up, and I was now for a good year, I would say, maybe just under about a year, in complete traumatic state now, like I have never experienced in my life. So just understanding how attachment can work, right? Attachment is like addiction, right? It's another way of saying it. It's like you're addicted to something, right? And when there's an addiction, if you are pulled from it, remember this is your ego, right? If you're pulled from it, then it's like the end of the world. Your body is trying to go through all the withdrawal symptoms from it, and therefore your body feels it all, right? That's another way of saying it. So it felt like I was now working through all the addiction stuff, right? But my body was going through all the trauma. This was the time I learned what trauma was. This was it. I now understood what trauma was, because I was feeling it all within my body for the first time ever in my life. So at this stage, I saw a therapist, and this therapist helped me massively, my gosh. And she just helped me understand what I've been going through, what this whole thing meant. And in this process, basically, I was as anyone has gone through trauma. If you've gone through trauma, you become completely disassociated. So there were many, many times and many months, not that I could barely do anything, and anything that I could do, if someone was talking to me, I would have no idea what they're saying to me. I remember one time I was talking to my therapist, and she would literally look at me and go, "You're not here, are you?" And I couldn't even look at her, and I'd say, "No, I'm not." And she'd say, "Where are you?" And I say, "I have no idea." I just couldn't be there. I couldn't be present. My body didn't feel safe enough to be present. I was learning how to do that, but there was trauma within my body. And there were certain things that I ended up doing that really helped me, which I'll share in another video to get through it. So this was the intense moment number 2. And in this year was the same thing where I just every day didn't want to be here, and I had to really battle that as well. But there is hope. There's always hope. And I learned so much about this journey and how no matter where this journey goes, in this awakening and what happens or anything, it gets easier. And it gets easier because when you start learning more about yourself, you come more and more within yourself. What happens is everything gets lifted because you are now aligned to yourself. And what I was told was this whole journey, this specific journey, if anyone has experienced this journey, this awakening journey, all of it comes down to complete unconditional love for yourself. So I know I'm on this long journey of complete unconditional love, and it is a journey and it's long, right? And there's still enough for me to go to really get to that point. But I know with the work that I've done, I have come so far, and I know it will just carry on that way. And whenever it happens, it happens. The whole thing will get lifted off, and when I find complete unconditional love for myself. So that's the journey that I'm on. Now, one of the things I was told about this journey, which really annoyed me, was, I'm just going to share as a human, was even after you find unconditional love for yourself and you find the freedom, I'm here for freedom. This is why I'm here, to find freedom within myself and then to be able to do the missions that I'm on, right? But even after finding unconditional love for yourself in this specific journey, it's still going to be shown these signs, right? Signs from the universe showing me, reminding me of this other soul. And that is a bit annoying, but I was told the reason why that has to happen and needs to continue because of what my soul has chosen and what his has in his own way, was that unless I'm seeing these signs, it's almost like I can't be here. So I have to keep on seeing these signs. I have to keep on going through this journey in order for me to keep on working on myself. It's the only way. It's keeping me earthbound. It's keeping me here, basically. I was told that, because I did ask this, I asked my guide, I said, why is it that I had to go through this specific, crazy, severe awakening journey? Why can't I just do it like, some other people? They just wake up sometimes and they're, oh yeah, and then they heal this, they heal that, just bit by bit in little steps. My life is not standard. It's completely full. It's completely complicated. And they said, because obviously on a soul level, I chose this, but that's because if you hadn't chose this, I'm being told, if I hadn't chose this, then I wouldn't be able to do any of it. I'd be lying down in front of the beach, lying down on the beach in front of the sun and just resting and not wanting to do anything else. So basically, I needed to be pushed to do this. There had to be a pull for me to do this. And that's why this is the journey. And like I said, it is like for the rest of my life, kind of. But once there's unconditional love that comes in, it does free me enough to be able to get through the next part, right? So that's my awakening journey. Now, in this whole awakening journey, as anyone who has gone through an awakening journey, you would realize that it really does its part. Like, it seriously wakes you up, and it's all meant to. But I cannot stress enough how much I've learned about self-compassion, even doing this and other things in my life, that I've learned, and I really stress this, unless you are living your life through self-compassion, this will be really, really difficult. I mean, there are times, not so much now, sometimes a little bit, but certainly in the past, where I just been like, I can't do this. This is too much. And then I go into the harshness of it. Then, I'm not good enough. I should be beyond this. I should be doing better than this. Why am I still thinking like this? That's the harshness that comes in. When the harshness comes in, is the masculine energy. It doesn't allow for growth. So the way to allow for growth, for you to transform and keep on moving forward, is by letting the heart open up. Be open with your heart and bring self-compassion in. It's the self-compassion that helps you through this journey. So I've had to really practice that in my life. So every moment, any time that I feel things, And it really, like, the hurt comes back, all the heartbreak, everything that I've come from other past lives, you know, in this life with, you know, with my soul, in my soul, I have to stop and just be completely compassionate towards myself and cry and cry. So this is part of why I'm doing this video as well. So to share that too. And yeah, and I just hope that it was somehow helpful, or that it gave you something, but to know that, yes, you know, this is a crazy ride, but that I'm still here, you are still here, we can do this. But you know, it's going to be up and down for a while, and it's just the way. But and some souls have chosen specific things that other souls haven't, right? So be loving to yourself, be compassionate towards yourself. Don't be afraid of being vulnerable. I've really struggled with that with my life, and I'm going to keep on being on this journey and doing even better in that for my growth as well.